Welcome everyone to Cisco's Virtual Kitchen. You like that jingle? I like the jingle.
Yeah, I feel like I always comment on it. This is only the second episode, but love it. It's good pump up music.
Yeah, yeah. It's I just laugh at because other podcasts I don't think do that. So there you go. Huh? Anyways, you know what? First of all, welcome Karen to the show today. You're from Food Venture Program. Do you guys call it program or Food Venture Program.com?
It's funny you say that. We're actually renaming ourselves, but yes, we are
Are
Food
you?
Venture Program. Yeah, because we're branching off into different things like innovation consulting and not just programs and education. So yes, I'm glad you asked.
Very good, eh? On the ball.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're going to talk about today's show is all around restaurant side hustles, and I think it's so important. This is one of the most, I would say, requested and most talked about shows that we have is restaurant side hustles. People want to know more ways to generate income, revenue, different streams out there. And I think when you get on, like, I dare you to type side hustles in like TikTok or stuff like that because you just get hammered with the amount of people saying, "Here's another way to make a little extra income and everything." And it's almost becoming, I wouldn't say a norm, but it's getting close. I haven't seen, and you can share with me how many restaurant industries are looking at side hustles as a part of their way of generating extra profit for the business. Is that normal, Karen? Do you see other business? Not in our food. We'll get into food service in a second. But do you
Okay.
see other businesses out there doing side hustles?
Yeah, I mean, well, my focus, I'm a dietitian, so my focus is in food industry, but I will tell you in the last like pre-COVID compared to when COVID started, we saw an explosion of side hustles happening. Like in our programs alone in 2020, we had about 450 entrepreneurs go through our programs compared to before that when I would say it was definitely less than 200 per year.
Well,
So it's been explosive increase specifically during COVID, and I think I'm assuming that goes for all industries, not just food industries. I mean, you'd see that through a random Google search for sure.
now let's get into our industries. So is this something that will become normal, you believe? In these two, we're getting into the two specific. Do you think a lot of restaurants will say, here's our side hustle program?
I mean, we're seeing that already. So I think yes, and I think it'll become a norm for sure. Once you realize how easy it is, like if you already have an up
That's
and running restaurant, you're halfway there to having other side hustles. So yeah.
okay. Now you said it's easy. Is it easy? Is it really that easy?
You know what? Maybe that is unfair for me to say that because I've had many side hustles over the last 10 years of my life. So for me, starting something is easier than actually seeing it through. But I'm going to say this. If you are a restaurant owner, I mean, you've already started something. And maybe you started your restaurant as a catering side hustle and it became a restaurant. So for those people, it would be easier for sure. And also, if you have a restaurant, you've got a kitchen up and running, it's public health certified, you have all of those regulations out of the way. Developing other side hustles in that kitchen, like catering or CPG, like a food product, will definitely be easier because you have all of that out of the way, like the kitchen, for example.
Yeah. So I got a couple side hustles here I'm going to share with you that I'm actually going to Vancouver next week to talk about to a group of people, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I do want to get into this in a second. We're going to run a quick little bite here from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. And we'll get into meal kits, and then my favorite is CPG. Is that cool here?
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll be right back after this.
Imagine both your front and back of house teams are so well trained that they're executing flawlessly. Your front of house is doubling your sales, boosting repeat business, and creating five-star dining experiences, while your back of house is consistently preparing each dish to perfection, on time and to spec. Having a restaurant this dialed takes a unique training system. That's where Serve comes in. Serve means Study Restaurant Variety, and it is a powerful, mobile training system, custom-built to meet the needs of your restaurant. Serve will up-level your team's knowledge and skills. maximize your profits, and create experiences guests will rave about. Serve is the key to unlocking your restaurant's hidden potential and will prove that the more your team is able to learn, the more your restaurant will earn. It's Serve, and it's a game changer. Ready to serve? Get started at servenow.com.
There you go. Anyways, that's Roger's hand. Anyways, welcome back to the SVK Network. So Karen, we're talking restaurant side hustles today, folks. We're gonna jump out there and share everyone some great ideas around this. But this is something that is growing at a huge speed. I think you made a big point, Karen, earlier about you already got a lot of this stuff done already. Why don't you make extra income? What's happening in your space? So I think it's critical that people understand. You already got a little bit of a head. What am I trying to say here? You got a little bit of a ways ahead of everyone else if you already got a restaurant sitting there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk meal kits. Meal kits. Let's go through what is a meal kit from your perspective. I know we've talked about them before in the past on the show. What's a meal kit right now for restaurants? Side hustle number one.
Okay. So it's interesting because we are seeing a different restaurants doing different kinds of things with meal kits. And I think like the easiest one to refer to is something like HelloFresh, where they give you all the raw ingredients and you cook it. But in specific, in terms of restaurants, I think a good example of this is General Assembly. So if you know of the pizza restaurant in Toronto, downtown Toronto, they offer a few different types of meal kits. So I'm pretty sure they're still doing this, where they would send you like raw dough, and you're cooking that in your house. They send you all the ingredients for the pizza flavor that you choose. So that is one. So you're sending literally all the raw ingredients. Other meal kits we're seeing are things where like they're sending you chicken, but it's already pre-cooked or something, and you're literally just assembling it there. You don't have to do any cooking. But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's really just a way to get family together and have an activity at home where you can do something together and still have your favorite food from that restaurant. And this was like an explosive thing to do during the pandemic because we lost the ability to go out and do that activity of going out to a restaurant in the evening with your family or friends, whoever. And so because of that lack of experience that was missing, a lot of restaurants started to make up for that by offering meal kits so people could still have a food related experience at home. So yes.
You're not thinking that this is just COVID, like this is around to stay then?
Well, it's interesting because we heard some food experts predicting that maybe meal kits would probably not be as popular when the pandemic started to kind of dwindle down. But that's actually quite the opposite. So we're seeing that it's still growing. I mean, it's like a $5 billion industry in America, and we are seeing that it is still growing. We're seeing like, I think it was HelloFresh bought out Chef's Plate, for example. So,
Yep.
it kind of just shows you that, it's very competitive. But imagine you're a restaurant and you're offering some really incredible meal kits, and maybe you get an offer to be bought out by a larger meal kit company. Like, I don't know, there's a lot of opportunity here. So it's worth getting into.
So I like when meal kits, this is just my perspective and I could be completely wrong here, but just what I like. I love looking at meal kits when there's an interactive process, right? So it's like you said that, you get the pizza, you can make it at home, but then you can join our pizza show and we'll help you cook that pizza through a video, or you can go to our YouTube channel and you can see all that. So it throws in another layer into that. It's experience. It creates an experience for the viewer and what they're doing. So I love that when it comes to meal kits. I think it's so much fun. Do you see meal kits also expanding, not just in restaurants, but in food service, like hotels, that kind of thing, or arenas or anything else?
Yeah, to be honest, we don't work really with that like hotel industry much, so I couldn't tell you exactly what we're seeing there. But that's not to say like, I mean, It could be something like a hotel that has a really popular restaurant, for example, sells a meal kit within their hotel and people can take it to their room and assemble like a plate of nachos or those kinds of things that are pretty simple. But yeah, to be honest, we don't get a lot of hotel owners going through our program, so I can't tell you what's going
Okay.
on in that
Well,
area.
I'm gonna give you a little freebie. You can do like they do like bed in a bag, so you can do this whole bed hotel experience at your house. I know it's crazy, but people do it. And I saw
Interesting.
that really become big on the back end of, I think it was this year or beginning of this year, the whole hotel experience program where you can offer. So you don't need to go to a hotel to have that experience. You can have it sent to you. So that's interesting. So there might be an
Yeah,
opportunity. Maybe it's a hotel meal and bedding and everything else to your place. I think
that's cool.
what it was it? It was the it's like the crazy. Oh no, it was Airbnb has created an OMG now field in their search, which is like crazy places to go stay, right?
Nice. Yeah.
So I think the same thing with meal kits is that as bizarre as you can think, I think you can make meal kits successful.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. And you know, it's like a really a big plus of a restaurant doing a meal kit because you'll see a lot of like standard type flavors with meal kits like HelloFresh or mainstream meal kits because they're trying to play it safe and appeal to a massive population. But as a restaurant, like maybe you have really unique flavors or marinades that you're using. And
Yeah.
people will only buy your meal kit because they love that flavor and they can't get it anywhere else. It's, you know, not something standard they can buy in a grocery store. So you have a one up on people if you have a very unique marinade. And maybe you don't want to sell that marinade because you have to put the ingredients of that marinade on the bottle if you're starting to sell it. But in a meal kit, you don't actually have to list the ingredients of that marinade. So it's still a way for people to enjoy it at home without sharing, you know, the ingredients so people can deduce how to make your marinade, for example.
Now, can you explain a little bit about that more? So you can get away with certain things in the meal kit than maybe you didn't have to in the past, or is there more regulations and stuff coming up?
Well, so if you're preparing something in your restaurant and selling it directly from your restaurant, you actually don't need to put an NFT or nutrition facts table on that product. So there's another plus. Like you can get away with not having that CFIA regulation on your meal kit or even your sauces if you are selling it just in your restaurant. As soon as you
What?
start selling through like a third party retailer, then you need labels. So, yes.
So do people know that? People don't know that, do they?
No, you know, it's not common knowledge and not common knowledge within food industry experts as well. And the thing too is like CFIA requirements changed a little bit, at least during the pandemic too, because of all these side hustles happening. They even started to allow like in-home bakers to start selling legally like cookies and spice rubs, example, from their homes. So things always change and you really have to keep up with it. But honestly, no, it's not common knowledge at all. And knowing this stuff is like kind of like a golden ticket.
No, no, no doubt.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people maybe don't even do it because of that, right?
Yeah, we see that all the time. People come to us saying like, I have this amazing product and it's like packaged and ready to go. I have a label on it, or like, you know, maybe they just have their logo. Well, you actually can just sell it just like that. um,
Serious.
yeah, I mean, it depends. Like again, if you get into third-party retailers, then you absolutely have to follow regulations and CFIA labeling requirements. But there's a lot of a
Good to
little, I
know.
should say there's red tape. So I mean, if you actually are wondering what you can and can't do, like that's a one-on-one conversation I'm happy to have with clients.
There you go. Awesome. So let's run to a quick commercial. So meal kits, simple. Revisit them. Now, can they learn more on your website, Karen, about meal kits
Um,
or what they need to do? Or they just
we
contact you?
just contact us. Yeah, we have a huge team of food industry experts that help with meal kit production and packaged food
What?
production and
Serious?
processing. Yeah, that's the name of the game for us. That's all we do. So happy to chat with anyone that's interested in just learning about what they can and can't do with their restaurant.
That's awesome. All right, so we're going to get back. We're going to go to our second segment right after this quick message, but we're going to talk about CPG. Now, this is your expertise. This is what you're a rock star of.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yes,
If we
exactly.
can humbly say that, yes. This is my favorite thing to talk about.
Humbly say that you're a rock star of CPG. All right, we're going to be right back after this. After this, we'll be right back. Thanks. All right, we're back, folks. SVK Network. We're tackling restaurant side hustles today with Karen from Food Venture Program, soon to be named something else, but she won't tell us. All right, we're going to talk CPG now, consumer packaged goods for restaurants. What is this all about? Karen, tell us more.
Ooh,
Ooh,
so
is that too much? I want to cut that back.
well, it's a loaded question, but I think I'll start by answering this. So we launched Food Venture Program in just at the end of 2019. Yeah. And anyways, we saw a massive influx of entrepreneurs, specifically in the restaurant industry, grasping at straws because of all of the restrictions that were in place and reduced revenue, et cetera, et cetera. It led to people being forced into making a CPG, which is a consumer packaged good, of their recipes. And so, I mean, a lot of this we saw specifically in the GTA in Ontario. A lot of restaurants were creating marinades or spice rubs or of some of their most famous recipes. And a lot of them, I would say, they were just starting to sell like at the storefront of their restaurant, and they would advertise through social media that, you know, this is available. If you want to make our amazing butter chicken, for example, you can buy our marinade. And some of these restaurants actually got their products into places like Loblaws and Whole Foods. And like, I think it's General Assembly. I'll use that example again, but they started selling frozen, slightly cooked pizzas, and those were selling like across GTA in smaller grocery stores at first, and then they got larger with that, selling to larger grocery stores. So I mean, the best place to start is obviously in your restaurant. There's obviously, we were talking about this, but there's less regulations when you sell in your restaurant as well, only at your storefront. So it's a
Yeah.
really good place to start for low cost.
So what's it like? Let's talk a little bit about the money. Can you make money at this, or is it just extra? It's not worth it. Is it worth it on the extra?
You know what? We've seen a whole range of things. Like some people that failed miserably with making money. They didn't fail at the, you know, whole idea of it because they learned like, you know, we're really not making money, so increase their margins. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think it really depends. We unfortunately do get a lot of people in food industry that don't love looking at financials, or they don't analyze their financials because they just hate doing it. And that's when you can really get hung up on things. So we say if you're going to sell a product, a food product, to mark your product up from your cost by at least 30% minimum. At that point, we do see entrepreneurs making money, but most of our entrepreneurs that go through our programs actually mark up by about 50%. And that's where you do want to be, but 30% is minimum.
So when you're talking about a recipe or a dish, is it a dish or are we talking about like an ingredient, like a salsa or a sauce or a product? What's typically people navigating to when it comes to products that they're doing a CPG program with?
Yeah, so honestly, most of the time, a lot of people that go through our programs do marinades and sauces. Hot sauces have been um, a
Yeah.
super saturated category of product development, and I don't love recommending going into the sauces area because it's so saturated and there's so much competition. But that is to say, like, if you are filling a gap in the market, and say, for example, you have like this incredible Vietnamese sauce, that's, an area that hasn't really been saturated, unlike, the classic tomato marinara sauce. If you have something very unique that's a sauce, it could potentially do well. So, yeah, we are seeing a lot of sauces. That to be honest is the most common thing we're seeing in restaurants specifically.
The sauces. Now, what category do you recommend that there's an opportunity? Do you believe that people haven't touched yet?
You know what? I think the opportunity right now is actually in ethnic flavors that are quite unique. Like, for example, we had a student just graduate with us that did an African based marinade, and he went to Dragon's Den with his product and he got
Right on.
investment. And so it's an area like ethnic areas where we don't really see a lot of are Vietnamese, Thai, African is kind of new. But you also don't want to get into the market too soon with a flavor that, the Canadian market doesn't know too well yet. You don't want to be too early to the game
Gonna
as
be
well.
too
But
early? Does you see that happening though? Some people come a little anxious and they get in too early.
yeah, we saw that with functional mushrooms. There were some people doing like uh, functional mushroom based beverages about 5 years ago. And unfortunately, like, I mean, as a dietitian, I was like, this is incredible. This should be out, everywhere. But it was too soon, too early for Canadians at least to take on something like that. But now we see functional mushrooms everywhere and people are aware of what they are. They're not as afraid of them as they used to be. So yeah, you can definitely be too early to the market. And that company unfortunately didn't they didn't make it till
Hmm.
today. Like they're not around anymore. So if they
But
relaunch now,
today they might have, yeah, had a better
yeah,
chance today.
I wonder.
Now, how do you know that they're too early? That's another question I have. How do you know when a company, if you said to that company, you're a little too early, how do you know that? Do you have a crystal
Yeah.
ball somewhere we don't know?
No, a lot of it is I've been in the food industry for, I mean, not as long as many, but 10, maybe over 10 years now. And my focus has been I'm a registered dietitian by profession, and I have been tracking food trends and nutrition trends specifically since like the early 2000s. And so it's just, I'm keeping up with research and keeping up with like actual scientific research before it hits the media. And so that kind of helps me know, like, okay, if I'm seeing functional mushrooms in the news like 10 years ago,
Yeah.
usually within 5 years is when it starts to hit the media from when it, from science to the media. That's kind of a trend that I've noticed. And so I think keeping up with the science really helps because once it hits the media, you're almost too late.
Yeah, it's a little too late, right? Do you have anything other than ethnics, rubs and sauces and stuff like that? Is there anything else that people should be considering?
We are seeing fermented foods become really popular.
Oh,
Yeah, so things like kimchi or pickled whatever, people are looking for like sides and accompaniments that they can include to spice up a dish, for example.
so no,
So,
they're not cooking it; they're just getting it done for them, kind of thing.
correct, yeah. Yeah, so like kimchi is a really good example. I've seen some restaurants, some Korean restaurants doing like unique flavors of kimchi and they're selling that as a product like on their own restaurant store shelves.
I could see that. I could see that because I would say the protein categories or those center of the plate dish areas have probably been quite used before in the CPG area, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, people are really, consumers are well educated nowadays. They are looking for things to create unique dishes and change things up a bit. And so, yeah, I think if you really like, my biggest advice is, I mean, I can't tell you what categories you should start selling products in that will obviously or be successful. I can't guarantee that. But my biggest advice is to go to a grocery store, go to a few grocery stores, and look at what's on the shelves there and see if you can analyze any gaps in the market. Like, go down the cookie aisle. What is not there in the cookie aisle that you think your store could fill the gap in, or even sauces, marinades, whatever product category it is that you want to launch in? Go down that grocery aisle and see what's missing and see if you can fill that gap.
Yeah.
That's a way that your product will likely be more successful if you're filling a gap.
Yeah, because I would just, and you always got to look at what those unique things are within the products that you're going to have. But
Mhm.
how do you market this? What's the recommendation when, okay, I'm going to create this new sauce. I'm going to create it this way. There's probably like companies like yourself that can help you with the step by step process of getting those to a product you can sell. What about the marketing? Where do people market a lot of this stuff?
Yeah, so I know you had a session on this not so long ago, but social media is your biggest friend. I mean, everyone has a phone. Your friend Sean Walchef, I don't know if I'm saying this. He's awesome.
Yeah.
But you have free marketing right at your fingertips. Everyone has a phone. It's the best way to start. Low cost, of course, and just selling at your own restaurant again, like it's right there in front of your consumer's face when they walk into the restaurant. Actually, I saw this when I lived in Guelph. There were quite a few restaurants that where you would just walk into the hallway while you were waiting for a seat. There's a whole wall of products on the side of the products that they're making in store, like their marinades or even their alcoholic drinks that are bottled in a can. And that's just sitting right there on their store shelf. So I mean, I'm a fan of $0 spent marketing a product to begin with. And that really helps to test the market as well, because you don't want to spend like $1,000 on marketing only to realize your product's not going to be successful and
Yeah.
maybe you've launched too soon. So, and actually, I am going to have a speaker on this episode that specifically will talk about marketing and branding your food product.
Yeah. And I think the thing is here's an idea guy. Um here's what I think people could do is when you're bang on the social aspect, and Sean's huge because of that. And I believe in everything he says and recommends to do. Use your phone, but the thing is here's how what I would do, and I've seen this a little bit on TikTok lately, is that you promote your products on social, but in your restaurant, as seen on TikTok. I've seen that a lot. I'm actually getting restaurants to do that on their menu, as seen on TikTok, or buy the product, take it home, and then repost, hashtag us in there, or add us, and then you create a social following within your restaurant based on the product that they're preparing at home. Right. So there's
Yeah.
this interaction experience kind of thing going in and out within
Mhm.
when you're using the or creating CPG products and things like that.
Yeah.
So
On that line too, we are seeing that the products that sell really well are ones that are advertised as like locally made or made from local ingredients. And another thing too is on front of label packaging. Like here's just an example. This is a client that went through one of our programs. Oh, it's terrible lighting here. Um,
okay.
Anyways, like you've got like an Ontario made sticker and things like that. We
Oh, okay,
know
cool.
like there is data to show that those products have like people will pay more for products that are locally made, and we know that Canadian consumers specifically, they trust farmers more than any other expert in the food industry. So if you're writing on the front of your package, like your, I don't know, cookies has oats that are sourced from a Canadian farmer, like write that on the front of your package because it could be a huge marketing point as well. So yeah, there's a lot of tips, and we track data to see what sells and what will consumers pay more for, and those are definitely some things consumers will pay more for.
There you go. The rock star expert in CBG. All right, Karen. Well, thanks again for being on the show today and sharing these really insights into CPG and meal kits and really what our restaurants could be doing out there to make extra money. And you're sure that they can make extra money, eh? You sure?
Yes, I mean, I think a lot of it has to you analyze your costs. We're here to help you as well. We have a whole team of consultants, so we want to help you make money. But yeah, it's definitely something worth trying.
And you go to foodventureprogram.com.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
so go there, check it out, get a hold of them. Karen and her team will help you out, hook you up. Then you can make extra money because it's tough out there and we got to make sure people are helping. So anyways, I got to run, Karen. Thank you so much to everyone else. Have a great rest of your day. And Karen, thank you so much for today's side hustle tips and what
Awesome.
you need to know.
No problem. Thanks, Jay. See you, everyone.
Cheers.